Hello, my friends. Another chapter of Malcom coming at you today. It has been a while, so the last thing that happened in the last chapter was that Malcom made a deal with Snip to undo his collar for him if Snip would give him some whatever he knows about where Aggie is. And then it ended with Snip swiping Malcom out the window, and he is now outside. So let's see how Malcom deals with the outside world.
Chapter 15, Outside. The night air was much cooler than inside the school. The smell of wet leaves and rain wrapped around Malcom as he hurtled toward the ground. Crazy thoughts crashed through his head. Would he ever see Amelia again? Would he ever nosh again? Would it hurt more to land on the pavement or the sidewalk? It was neither. Malcom's fall was broken by one of those pokey-looking shrubs outside our classroom window. Its branches slashed at him as he fell through it, and by the time he stopped, his nose, deeply scratched, was about 3 inches from the white gravel underneath the bush. Malcom took a long, quivering breath and jumped to the ground. The school's outside lights sliced through the dark like a dirty look from Kiera. Malcom sniffed. He hadn't been outside like this in, ever. What would you do if you found yourself in a place you'd never been before? Would you hunker down and watch at first, or would you sprint out and start exploring? Do you know Malcom well enough yet to know what he did? Let me give you a hint. There was no peanut butter involved. Malcom stayed put, just until he could figure out how to get back in. He was peering out at a small parking lot. Only one row of cars, empty now, of course. Across from the parking lot was another bank of boxy, overgrown shrubs with chalky gravel underneath. Over them, a huge glowing orb hung in the sky. Why did the moon look so much bigger outside than from inside in a cage? A breeze blew through a thick, damp wind that ruffled the wet leaves on the ground. Fall would turn into winter soon. Malcom had heard someone say that morning, but he had never known the weather changes he'd heard so much about. He was an inside pet. Malcom's nose twitched. He gnawed on a whisker. The breeze shifted. Malcom rose up on his hind legs. What was that? The aroma of nosh and fodder wafted across his sore pink nose. He stepped out of the bush's shadows. Malcom scooted along the edges of the curb until a giant metal box on wheels loomed over him.
I want you to pause for a minute and think about what giant metal box that smelled like food was looming over him.
It was huge, as tall as a lanky, as wide as a free-throw court. The rich, thick smell oozed from the box. It seemed like every scrap, nubbin, crumb, morsel, speck, shred, swill, and driblet Malcom had ever tasted, sniffed at, or dreamed about was in that box. Malcom trotted around it, his nose wriggling furiously. You know how you always say that the 10 minutes before lunch are useless, Mr. Biney, because we're too hungry to think? Well, Snip could have come up and tapped Malcom on the shoulder, and he wouldn't have even noticed. He was a rat on a mission, a one-snack mind. There had to be an opening. Malcom put his front paws on the metal, found a groove, and crawled up. The top of the metal box was two rubber flaps, and inside those flaps, garbage. Paper scraps, wrappers, old milk cartons, leftover applesauce, bits of crackers, pineapple tidbits, grilled cheese crust. Do you know where Malcom was? Yes, his nose was deep in the cafeteria dumpster. Malcom's stomach squeezed in happy anticipation. What luck! He'd feast. Then, once he was properly fueled, he'd figure out how to get back inside. Where to start? Malcom pawed at a pile, turning over a soda can. He took a sniff. Was that peanut butter? He licked it so clean the pop top came off. He was all set to throw it over his shoulder when... Oh, can I have that? A nasally voice behind him made Malcom jump. Malcom spun around and came face to face with a rat. This rat was a proper rat, though. Beefy, glossy, with a tail as long as a tetherball rope and a body as long as Jovan's supersized sneakers. The rat snatched the pop-top out of Malcom's stunned paws. He threaded the pop-top on his tail, where there were 2 others already rested. He held his tail out to admire. I love the glim. Isn't it dazzling? The rat circled Malcom slowly. You're a rat out here, right? Oh, you're a new rat out here, right? I'm Clyde. Malcom spun around, trying to follow Clyde, but succeeded only in getting his hind leg stuck in a yogurt container. He kicked it off just in time to hide the end of his tail in his front paws. Gristle Why were his whiskers so stubby, so puny? He really had to quit chewing them, but hey, hold on, Malcolm croaked. How did you know I was a rat? The rat stopped and looked at him exactly like you eyed Skylar the time he asked if he should put his name on the social studies test, Mr. Viney. Well, because you are one. What else would you be? You're no chihuahua. Clyde tipped his head and considered. Did you hit your head in the fall? Clyde knew Malcolm was a rat. Clyde knew Malcolm was a rat. You can't know how that felt. Have you ever gone your whole life with people thinking you were one thing, but knowing deep inside that you were really something else entirely? And Clyde saw through that, saw right through what Malcolm really truly was, and it didn't disgust him. Malcolm felt a little like dancing. Instead, he said, yes, I'm new, and no, I didn't hit my head, just my nose and my whiskers. Might as well blame them on the fall. Clyde picked up the yogurt container. So, where are you from? He asked, looking at the rim. Malcolm pointed. Inside. Clyde pulled his head out of the container. Inside? You mean like inside the school? Malcolm nodded again. He crept toward a half-eaten breakfast burrito. Oh, man, you lucky rat. You made it out. Wait until you meet the others. They aren't going to believe this. Come on, I'll take you. Clyde scampered to the edge of the dumpster, the pop tabs on his tail clinking. Malcolm hesitated. Go with Clyde? Others? Everything was moving so fast. He needed to get back inside, right? He couldn't stay out here, could he? Staying out here would be easier. No Minute Academy, no Honey Bunny. Out here he could be a rat. A rat. Malcolm glanced up at the looming brick side of McKenna, but inside was Amelia, Aggie, his comfy cube, and room 11. There it was. Malcolm recognized the poster of Despero the mouse through the window. Malcolm also noticed something else. A drain pipe snaked up the side of the building past 4 floors of ivy-covered windows. But most important, it went right past room 11's far left window, and that window was open a crack. We already know how Malcolm can slip through the smallest of spaces. In other words, it was his way back in, if Malcolm wanted it. Clyde sensed Malcolm's hesitation. What are you waiting for? Clyde's eyes followed Malcolm's stares. Oh, no. Oh, curdled crumbs. You're not thinking of returning, are you? Clyde edged his way at the thought of it. They're going to put you back in a cage, you know. You'll have the smaller ones poking at you every day, pulling your tail. It's awful. No, it's not like that, Malcolm started. How could he explain? Everything he knew was inside. And out here, yes, he'd be a rat, but he'd just be a rat. A dirty rat, maybe. Or a rat fink, even. Never a rat of velour or a verret. I need to. Clyde shook his head. You're fermented. Suddenly a shriek echoed through the night, the same one that had brought Miss Brumble up to the 4th floor earlier that night. It was the same one that Malcolm had heard inside, right before Snip had pounced on him. Only out here the scream came from high above. It bounced around off the walls. Malcolm had never lived in the wild, but instincts told him to take cover. Clyde dove into the shrubs, and Malcolm dove off the dumpster and into the ivy.
I wonder what that shriek that they keep hearing is. Any guesses? Also, into the ivy, do you think that means he went back into the building? I think Malcolm seems more like an inside mouse than an outside mouse. Let me know your thoughts.